When a group of fake HOA cops showed up at my door, saying I was violating community rules, I knew something was wrong. With fake badges and a lot of arrogance, they tried to arrest me in my own backyard. The problem? I'm the real town marshal, and now these idiots are about to find out the hard way that they messed with the wrong person. I always knew that the HOA in my neighborhood was a bunch of lunatics with too much free time and not enough useful things to do. A bunch of sheriff-like residents who think they're the judge, jury, and executioner of anyone who doesn't follow the absurd rules they make up. They'd picked on me before about the size of my fence, the color of my door, and even the way I parked my car. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared me for what happened that morning. I was having my coffee quite calmly when I saw a group of people standing outside in the reflection of the window. There were 4 figures standing on my sidewalk, all wearing matching polo shirts, sunglasses, and an air of authority that looked like it had been bought at a scam sale. One of them was holding a notebook, another had a toy radio strapped around her waist, and the icing on the cake was the woman in the middle, with short dyed hair, her arms crossed, and an expression like she had just sniffed a liter of vinegar. Karen. She stood out as the leader of the group, as if she were the general of an army of idiots. I took a deep breath, took the last sip of my coffee, and went to answer the door. Before I had fully opened it, she started talking as if she were giving a press conference. "You are in serious violation of HOA rules, and we are here to take action." I stared at the woman, expecting a hidden camera. Was this a prank? What did she want now? Before I could say anything, she pulled out a piece of plastic and shoved it in my face. "You are under investigation for numerous infractions, including the unauthorized painting of your garage, the presence of an unregistered vehicle on your property, and—" She paused dramatically, as if about to accuse me of murder. "Inappropriate behavior towards members of the community." I had to hold back a laugh. The garage had been exactly the same color since I moved in. The unregistered vehicle was my perfectly legal truck parked in my own lot, and inappropriate behavior. In other words, I simply refused to attend the boring and pointless HOA meetings. That's where the unbelievable part came in. Because you refused to heed previous warnings, the HOA is exercising its right to civil custody, and we're here to take you into custody until the matter is resolved. Detention? I blinked a few times, trying to absorb what she was saying. "You want to arrest me?" Karen puffed out her chest as if she were about to receive a medal for bravery. "The HOA has full authority over this neighborhood." The other 3 idiots nodded in sync, as if they were a choir of well-trained parrots. And that's when I realized the level of insanity. They really thought they had the power to arrest someone. Little did they know, I'm the town marshal, not a mall security guard, not a neighborhood volunteer. I'm a real deputy with a badge, a gun, and a good dose of patience for this kind of nonsense. I kept my cool and decided to play the game for a moment. "Interesting," I said, feigning consideration. "And how exactly do you intend to arrest me?" Karen pointed to one of the thugs, a man with a beer belly and a t-shirt that looked 2 sizes smaller than it should have been. He pulled a pair of plastic handcuffs from his pocket. "Plastic. We have our methods," he said, trying to sound tough. It was official. The circus was set up on my doorstep. I took a deep breath, stepped back, and in one swift movement pulled my wallet out of my pocket, opening it to display my shiny badge. Karen's smile disappeared faster than a Black Friday discount. "Good to know you think you can make arrests," I said in the most serious voice I could manage. "Because at this moment, you're committing a series of crimes, including impersonation of a law enforcement officer and attempted kidnapping." The silence was instantaneous. Karen's eyes widened. Her henchmen looked at each other, and for the first time, they realized they had been playing with the wrong person. "What are you implying?" the woman stammered, her confidence crumbling like a house of cards in a gale. I crossed my arms. "I'm implying that unless you disappear from my property in the next 5 seconds, I'm going to arrest you for real." Silence. Sweat started running down one of the guys' foreheads. Karen's hand trembled slightly as she still clutched the laminated paper. And then, like a bunch of rats fleeing a sinking ship, they began to take steps backward, mumbling lame excuses. "It's not over yet," Karen shouted before spinning on her heels and disappearing with her pathetic companions. I watched as they walk away, feeling a mixture of amusement and disbelief. What the hell had just happened? But deep down, I knew this story was far from over. If I thought that ridiculous arrest scene was the end of the joke, I was very much mistaken. I knew stubborn people, but Karen and her henchmen took it to an almost artistic level. Normal people would accept defeat and get on with their lives, but not this woman. Not only did she not give up, she decided to double her bet. The first retaliation came the next day. When I went out to take out the garbage, I realized that my cans were gone. They had simply disappeared. There was no sign of them on the sidewalk or on the side of the house. I looked around, and of course, I saw Karen on the other side of the street, standing with her arms crossed, looking like she thought she was the queen of the neighborhood. When our eyes met, she made sure to let out a satisfied little smile before entering the house. I took a deep breath and tried to ignore it. But then, when I got to my mailbox, I found an envelope with the HOA stamp on it. I opened it, knowing that there was going to be nonsense inside. And I wasn't disappointed. A list of penalties. According to them, I was in non-compliance with community standards. Among the pearls of wisdom they listed, I was forbidden to use the waste disposal services. I could no longer park my car in the garage. I had to attend a mandatory meeting to discuss my inappropriate behavior. I took the paper and tore it in half right there, letting the pieces fall to the ground. If Karen wanted to annoy me, she was going to have to try harder. But of course, she had other tricks up her sleeve. That afternoon, I went out to sort things out, and when I came back, I found an orange cone in the middle of my driveway. Next to it, there was a plastic notice stuck to a piece of wood, as if it were an official notification. It said that my garage was closed by order of the HOA. It was the most absurd thing I'd ever seen. How could someone have the nerve to ban someone else from using their own garage? I went over there, tore off the paper, and unceremoniously threw the cone onto the sidewalk. And across the street, I saw two of Karen's cronies watching. One of them was holding a notebook, writing down who knows what. Maybe, owner removing cone improperly. As if they were serious investigators and not two idiots playing inspectors. It wasn't even 2 minutes before Karen appeared. You can't remove that. I looked at her, holding the cone as if it were a murder weapon. Oh, can't I? In my own house? She pointed at the laminated paper, her face already turning red with anger. This is an HOA sanction. You can't just ignore community rules. I took a deep breath to keep myself from laughing in her face. Karen, you don't have the authority to ban my garage. In fact, you have no authority to do anything but annoy me. She widened her eyes in indignation, but before she could reply, I went into the house and slammed the door. Karen calls the police on me. The next day, while I was at the police station, I got a call from one of the few neighbors who wasn't part of this crazy HOA cult. He sounded a bit nervous. Dude, the police are in front of your house. I stopped what I was doing. 2 cars. They said they'd received a tip-off about a man with a gun on your property. That's when I understood. Karen had appealed. She called the police and made up a story to get me in trouble. I took my car and rushed home. When I arrived, I saw the 2 policemen talking to Karen, who was playing her best victim role. Her attitude was that of someone deeply concerned about the safety of the community. If I hadn't known she was a snake, I would have believed it. I got out of the car, and the police recognized me on the spot. I knew them both. Honest, good guys, and I could tell by the look on their faces that they knew they were here for a waste of time. Oops, boss, one of them said a little awkwardly. We've received a report of suspicious activity involving a man with a gun at this residence. I looked straight at Karen. I bet the report came from this lady here, huh? She tried to disguise it by putting her hand on her chest. I only reported what I heard. Some people saw a suspicious movement and got worried. The policemen exchanged glances, already fed up. One of them sighed and turned to me. Well, since there's no real threat, we'll register it as a prank. But Miss Karen, just for the record, making false reports can get you into a lot of trouble. Her face turned red. For the first time, she looked really nervous. She opened her mouth to protest, but gave up and just crossed her arms, furious. The policeman left, and I stood there looking at Karen. She looked at me too, without saying anything. For the first time, I felt that she really understood that she was playing with fire. But I knew she hadn't given up yet. She was going to try something worse, and I couldn't wait to see how far this woman would go before she completely destroyed herself. Karen's next plan, digging up my yard. I already knew that Karen wasn't the type to give up easily. But after the police prank fiasco, anyone with a shred of shame would have stuck their head in a hole and kept quiet. Not this woman. For her, losing was not an option. If the attempt to arrest me with plastic handcuffs and the false complaint didn't work, it was obvious that she had a plan C. And that plan began to appear the very next morning. I was woken up by the sound of a heavy truck pulling up right in front of my house. Still a little groggy, I went to the window and saw a team of uniformed workers getting off the vehicle, equipped with excavators, shovels, and a bunch of orange cones. They looked ready to start some major construction work. My first thought was that they were at the wrong address, but then I saw Karen on the other side of the street, with her arms crossed and a satisfied little smile, as if she had just pulled a loose thread and was about to watch my world fall apart. I went downstairs, still in my pajamas, opened the door, and went over to the guys. One of them, who looked like the team leader, turned to me with a clipboard in his hand. "Good morning, sir. We're going to start repairs on the underground pipes." I looked like I didn't understand. "What repairs?" "We received a request from the Residents Association informing us that there was a water leak on this property." I glanced at Karen, who pretended to be admiring a tree. "Let me guess. The work order was signed by a certain Karen." The man flipped through the papers and nodded. "Yes, the order came from Karen Thompson, president of the HOA. Karen. That bastard had ordered my entire yard to be dug up for a leak that didn't exist." I took a deep breath so as not to tell everyone to K off at once. "Look, buddy, there's no leak here. Neither you nor the HOA are authorized to touch anything, so you can gather up your tools and turn around." The guy hesitated, looking at his colleagues as if waiting for confirmation. "Well, sir, the thing is, we're already here, and now you're leaving." He opened his mouth to protest, but then I showed him my badge. The effect was immediate. He widened his eyes, swallowed dryly, and turned to the staff. "Right, guys, let's call it a day." The workers started collecting the tools. Karen came marching toward me like a runaway train. "You can't do this." I raised an eyebrow. "Do what? Stop them from destroying my yard for no reason? The HOA has authority over the neighborhood's infrastructure, and I have the authority to arrest you for trespassing and fraud." Her mouth opened and closed a few times like a fish out of water. For the first time, she seemed genuinely speechless. "But don't worry," she recovered quickly. "You're disrespecting the community. That's not how a good neighbor behaves." I took a step forward, lowering my voice just enough to see the color drain from her face. "And you're meddling where you shouldn't be." Karen didn't reply. She just threw her hands up in the air, huffed, and stormed back into her house, stomping on the floor like a tantruming child. Karen's final attempt, trying to evict me. But of course, she wasn't going to stop there. A week later, I received a letter from the HOA saying that my house was under disciplinary review. According to the letter, I had accumulated several serious infractions. I was openly defying the authority of the HOA. Therefore, my presence was no longer desired. And they were taking steps to revoke my residency in the neighborhood. That's right. This crazy woman wanted me out of my own home. I had to laugh loud. The HOA didn't have the power to do that.